What up? Story motherfucking time. So some time ago, I was not a nurse yet. I was a CNA. And I was working, my home unit was a mother-baby unit. But I was pulled to another unit because the census on the mother-baby unit was so low. And so I was no longer needed. Great. So I go to this other unit, and I was working with another nurse who was also pulled. So what they would do at this hospital is they would pull OB nurses, labor and delivery nurses who had previous experience on med-surg floors, telemetry floors, ICU floors, because a lot of nurses do move from a completely different field of nursing into another field. So I went with another nurse who I usually work with on the mother-baby unit to another floor. And it was another med-surg floor. It didn't really matter to me because as a CNA, it was all the same. So I started my shift. I got report from the other CNA, and I was just getting ready to go do my rounds, get everything set up, clean my patients up, give them their ice waters if they were allowed to have anything to eat or drink. And it finally got to a point of the night, during every night shift, this was night shift, where things slowed down significantly, like to the point where it was detrimental to whether or not I'd be able to stay awake. Like I needed to take some laps around the unit. I needed to have conversations about things that didn't matter, that made no sense. It didn't matter. I just needed to keep moving and stay engaged. And so I ended up sitting down next to my coworker that I usually worked with on the mother-baby unit. We can call her Lorena. So Lorena and I, we were just sitting, shooting the breeze, talking from one thing to the next. She was documenting, I was documenting. She had more documenting than I had to do, so eventually it was just her documenting, and I was just sitting there just continuing to talk her ear off because I needed to stay awake. And so at some point during our conversation, she sort of pauses and I see her eyes follow something, and I was like, we're sitting across from a few rooms, so I was like, she probably sees her patient like get up and start to move around, and I'm like, she's about to get up and go in there, because on these med-surg floors, there are so many patients that are confused and that believe that they're in their home and they've got to go feed their cat or their dog or their hamster or their husband or their wife. Anyways, so I was like, what's up? Do you have to get up? And so she kind of snaps out of it and looks at me, and she was like,
no, but I do want to tell you something.
Okay. She said when she went into an empty patient's room to grab a piece of equipment that she had ran out of in another room, she saw a gentleman sitting in the corner of the room. And she paused, and the gentleman turned around and looked at her and just said one word: fire. And she just haul-tailed out that room. Obviously, every time she walked past that room there after that, there was no gentleman.
I see dead people.
And I was like, you know what? If we could just pause right here. It's the middle of the night. I'm no longer interested in talking to you. I am no longer concerned about whether or not I'm going to stay awake. That was all I needed. I will be up for the rest of the motherfucking night. Thanks. I don't need any more. I'm not the one. I don't need it. Hold on to that story. Hold on to that experience. I don't need it. So she continues talking to me. And she was like,
you know, I knew that there was something off about this unit specifically. I used to work here several years ago.
And I was like, you know what? Maybe just stay out of that room. Okay? Maybe just stay away from that room and me, because I'm not seeing anything and I don't need to start seeing anything that isn't there, okay? Okay? So she says, I just feel like that was some sort of foreshadowing. And I was like, what, the word fire? Nah, bruh, let it go, let it go, let it go. And at that point is when I've had enough, and I got up and I was like, I gotta go check on my patients. And I completely, strategically avoided that room. The night progresses. Like I said before, did not have an issue staying awake because now I was paranoid. And when my hair touched my neck, I thought it was a motherfucking ghost. And I don't know, maybe about 5:50 in the morning, I started getting excited because it was coming to the end of the shift, my 7 to 7. Everyone's starting to get busy again because this is also the time that you check blood sugars, the time that you start to give AM meds, the times that you have to start, you know, packaging up your patients for the shift to come on. We have a little over an hour left. And I hear the motherfucking fire alarm go off. And in my mind, immediately the first thing that came to mind was when Lorena told me about that gentleman that she saw that uttered the one word, fire, okay? And I was like, nah, this is a test run. They do this all the time. They don't always tell us about it. It's annoying, it's frustrating. We have to hear that loud, obnoxious, high-pitched noise, the flashing lights, and we gotta close the doors. Maybe about 30 seconds later, I hear somebody over the announcement say, "This is not a drill." Why did we end up having to wheel our patients off that unit in their beds because the fire was on that unit? How did the fire start, might I ask? Or excuse me, you ask? A patient that was admitted into the room that Lorena saw that gentleman in decided that he was going to light a cigarette. Yes. Yes. What a tremendous night that turned out to be. Anyways, so then after that I decided I wanted to be a nurse. Thanks for joining. Have a great, whatever time of day it is that you're watching this. So this one is called Falling. We are treading on the edge of disaster to a place where our minds forget to be our masters. We are slipping through the cracks of pain to a place where our minds are no longer sane. We are descending the hills of deceit to a place where our minds have lost their peace. We are drifting through the clouds of displeasure to a place where our minds long for true treasure. We are drowning in a sea of insanity, a place where our minds have created calamity. We have stumbled upon the fields of love, a place from which our minds refuse to budge. This place that holds our hearts captive, reminding me that my mind can no longer be active. This place that relies solely on emotion, almost making me disregard self-devotion. That was Falling.